What's up, guys? I'm Lee Williamson, and today I'm going to be continuing where I left off previously in UV mapping a milk jug. We're going to be going inside Photoshop, getting out our Wacom pens and gloves. If you don't have one, just use a mouse. This technique that I'm going to show you is quite fairly simple. I'm sure you could do it with a mouse too, so don't stress. Without further ado, let's dig in. Right, so following on from my previous tutorial, I had just finished showing how to UV map this milk jug and did a real basics on how to create your own texture map for UV mapping. Now, a couple of things I wanted to kind of do differently is, first of all, I don't want my texture grid to be so close to the end, because that can cause a whole bunch of problems. Like when I paint on this side, it ends up popping on this side. So let's just move things around a bit. I think it would be better if they kind of sat about, let's just shrink all this up. So select it all and T on your keyboard, shrink a lot smaller. And then move that one down over there. So there's enough breathing room on this side and that side. Now this side is the inside. So we want that circle to be near it. Boom. And this, we're going to move that roughly about there and do the same thing. Move that there. I really would like that just to be on there. Fine. Okay, cool. Let's save that up. Saved. And we're going to our materials. And we're going to create a new mat. Just for whatever reason, my previous one is still there. So let's just delete that. Gone. And we can say create new material. Let's just call this tut mug, because that's what it is. Click on the X and then click on this tiny little gray X over there, double click on it. There we go. So tut mug 1, and make sure that the dimensions are already correct. 4096 by 4096. And background color, I've just gone with this gray. We can always change that if we want, and press OK. Now you can go to File, Save Texture As, or you can just press Control S and save, and that should save it into your text folder that you have. I will have a folder called text, and it should appear inside there. So it should live in the same destination as your Cinema 40 file. Unless, of course, you can give it that path. Actually, let's just see what it does. So if I go File, Save, do you want to save it textures? Yes. Let's see where they put it. Tut mug. There we go. Tut mug color 1. Perfect. So it saves it in the right place. Now, I didn't even press File Save As. I just went Control S and it automatically did it. But what I want to also show you, and this is quite a useful one to know, is if you go into your edit, into your project, is it preferences? And you go down to body paint, you can set your default format to Photoshop PSD. So I've already changed it. Originally it comes as a TIFF, but we want it as a PSD. It'll be a lot smaller, and we have a layered file. We're going to go with a PSD. So to save a bit of time, go into body paint and change this to PSD. So that'll be your default from now on. And then you don't actually have to go File, Save it. It just automatically saves it where it should be. Now, after I've bored you with that information, let's start doing some of the magic stuff. So we are going to select all of our UV grid. we're going to go into clicking on. One thing you have to do is you actually have to click on your material tag first. Now you can see the gray background that I chose. Then you can go into outline polygons, and that should add paint some outlines on there. And then this is based off what your brush setting is at. So just bear in mind my brush setting is at 10 and the color of the brush is white at the moment, so therefore it's 10 and it's white. So if this fills out and the lines are too thick, it's probably because your brush settings was wrong. So there is your brush over there, just so you know. Cool, so let me just change over to my Wacom pen. Whacking my Wacom glove as we speak. Right, so first things first, we want to know is this is currently the inside. So let's try that. Let's say go to our layers. You know what, that was the first mistake I made. See on the background now, it's put my outlines on the background. I don't want it to be that way. So you can go down to here and say new layer. Double click it just like in Photoshop, and we'll call this outlines guide. Perfect. And then we can go select our whole entire grid again and go to outline polygons. Boom. So now when you turn the eye on and off, we have this new layer, and I'm just going to press save. Cool. And then I'm going to create a new layer, and this layer is just going to be me giving myself some helpful guides of where things are. So if I select these polys here, I know that this bottom is the inside. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call this copy. And I'm going to choose my brush, and I'm just going to say inside. And if that's the inside, then that must be the outside. And then naturally this is going to be the inner circle, outer circle. I don't need to, since I've already put it next to it, it should be fine, and we know that that's the handle. But hey, why not just call it handle anyway? Cool. And I'm going to save that up, and let's get started. So I'm going to open up Photoshop, and where we have it already. And we can set these, let's just put this inside of a folder and just call them guides. Actually, you know what, let's just merge the whole lot and just call it guides. That's fine. Probably should have done that anyway. And save that. And then put the opacity nice and low down. Now I'm going to try and go with a style that seems to be quite popular at the moment, that I saw Sarah Beth Morgan use for illustrations for the advanced motion methods. It was a really nice hand-painted style, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I choose my brushes, it's already on, and I go into my, let's see, manga pack. So these are the Kyle Webster's brushes. They come for free with their Adobe suite, so you don't have to buy them, which is great. Just gonna make the brush bigger with our square brackets. Actually, yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. So Kyle Manga's basic variable softener. And that's got, seems to have a nice pointy end to it. That's great. Cool. So let's just test this out and see how it is. We'll call this black shadow. Now this is the outside of the spout, and underneath here is where I want to show a bit of a shadowing. So I can, I'm going to try it with like a single hatch. When I say a hatch, like a single hatch is like this, double hatches like that. In case you're wondering what I mean. So I'm going to keep my lines relatively straight because my UV is quite straight, and I'd like that to be fairly straight. So let's just go with a then really straight, and then a little bit further out as you make your way out. And then maybe I can darken it up there. Okay, and let's just test this out. So I'm gonna press save and I'm gonna turn the guides off. I'm gonna go into Cinema 4D and I can go into the user, double click inside my UV map. And we're gonna have this drop down here and you say reload image, press yes. One thing I've got to remember to do is I need to actually drag in my texture on here so that you can see it. And let's just see if that's happened. And like a numpty, I've drawn it in the wrong side. So that's the first step. But I'll teach you one little technique that will make your life a lot faster. You noticed that I had to reload the texture from my material editor, but there was a really cool, quicker method. Lewis Miranda from School of Motion helped me out on this one. If you go into your UV edit mode, I'm just going to go into customize, customize commands, and I'm going to type in material reload all textures, and I'm just going to drag that into my taskbar. You can then always save a new palette if you want for that. So now, whenever I do something in Photoshop, all I need to do is press on this reload all textures and I don't have to keep moving around my layout. That makes life a lot easier. So first of all, I made a real muck up there. I'm just going to pick that up and move it. And actually, since I am pressing 1 as if I was in Cinema 4D, not spacebar, I'm going to move that up in there. There we go. And drop it down. And now let's try that again. File, save, go in Cinema 4D, and just press refresh and say yes. And then when I go inside here, it's popped onto the opposite side because I've moved it up to the top there. So that's great. And I've painted it on the end there. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to paint it on the opposite side. So I want this kind of almost a fake hand-painted shadow on the handle of the milk jug. So if I go inside here and give it a new layer, handle shadow. Now I want to make some mistakes, purposeful mistakes, to see why I'm painting the way I am. So, if I decided to, let's just say, paint this out here and turn that guide off and press save and then reload, you're going to notice one thing that's happened here is that's cut off right there, right where the seam is. Your drawing is cut off and it looks pretty gross. You can almost see that's where the seam stops and that's where it's going to be showing, because that's where we put our UV. So the cool way to get around this little bit of a mess up is to, okay, let's do it really nice and neat first of all. I want to do my hatching and then maybe evens out to the end. Cool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut the edge of it off. And I'm going to move it to the edge like that. Right? And I'm going to press Ctrl J. And I'm going to flip it around. And I'm going to put it to the very edge on this side. So now this side should meet that side and mirror it. So when I turn my guides off, go inside Cinema 4D and press refresh and yes. they should, strictly speaking, match up. Now, first thing you'll notice is they're a little bit too high and a little bit angled too. So now this is one of the reasons why I mentioned trying not to angle your brush. So let's try that again. That's good, we're learning that trial and error first. As frustrating as I'm sure you guys don't want to see me do this 1,000 times over, but hey, it's the only way we learn. So I'm going to hold down Shift this time when I draw. This way, those lines should be nice and straight. I can cut off the edge. And let's see, 1, 2, and a bit. 1, 2, and a bit. 1, 2, and a bit. Is that right about there? Let's hope it is. Okay, and let's turn this off again and see what happens. Refresh that bad boy. Now we're getting there. So we're gonna move that up a little bit more. I'm gonna delete the one side. And I'm just gonna paint inside of those little bits there. I wasn't quite happy with those ones there. Every time I held down Shift, there was a little bit of a zigzagging going on. So I'm gonna wing it. Delete that again. Flip around. Bring it to the other side. Reload. Perfect. Okay, cool. So now we've got a little bit of shading under the milk jug and a little bit of shading under there. Still think that it's probably a little bit too wide. So let's see, what if we shrunk this down quite substantially? We really don't want that shadow to be that wide because the handle isn't that wide. Okay, cool. And I'm going to save that. And now the next step we want to do is, let's see, perhaps the inside of the jug. We're going to have the light source possibly going from lighter to darker, so we can kind of hatch out the bottom. So who knows, we could fill out the whole entire jug, fully black, and then we can do cross hatching for the whole rest of it. Why not? Let's be lazy and duplicate what I did over there. And make life a lot easier. And rotate it this way around so that the crosshatch evens out all the way to the end. It would be naughty not to label my layers. Sue me. Right, cool. So since I stretched this out, my lines are identical on both sides, so it should, fingers crossed, work well. Let's Let's reload that. Perfect, and now we've got this nice kind of cross-hatching going down, so it's light at the top and then starts to get thicker to the bottom. And then we could make sure that the inside of the circle is fully black. Since there's going to be no light cast inside there. And then we'll make sure that we turn the guides off. Refresh. Yes. And there we go. We've got it nicely painted with a little bit of shadow on both sides. Now the next step we can do is, I don't know about you guys, but when you are doing an outline for this shape, you can't just kind of draw this around here and draw that around there and expect the outline to appear perfectly three-dimensional around the whole jug. This is where you have to start using something like Sketch and Toon, and that's how we can kind of fake the non-UV map drawn part of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my standard layout, and I'm going to go into my settings. I'm going to go to Effect and choose Sketch and Toon. Right. So you can't see anything happen yet, so I'm going to put on interactive render region. And let's just put the resolution nice and high. So you take this little arrow here, and you put the resolution nice and high. Okay. And we want our lines to look a little bit similar to the brush that I created inside of Photoshop. So we can go into our strokes. Let's go to thickness, jam it up to about 10. And we can choose joint angle. That should kind of give it a bit of a varied thickness and thinness. And then we can click on noise, and that should give it that little bit of a wobbliness. And we can get that height nice and wide. Let's see on that joint angle, I wonder if I just pull out the bottom and pull it up a little bit, it doesn't get so thinned out at the very edge. So you know, if I had to bring it all the way to the top, it's going to end up being the same thickness again. So this is on the joint angle that I was showing you. What does that look like? Okay, cool. And then the noise is a little bit too much. So we can bring that scale higher. Higher maybe. Yeah. And then what's this do? Oh, we could use a bit of the curve noise, and then maybe bring the low clip high. No, high clip low. Just kind of playing around here. Until I get something that might look nice. Pull down the contrast, and that looks quite nice. I'm happy with that. Cool. So there we go. We've got our outlines done. And what could we do next? It'd be nice if we had a floor and a light source, perhaps. So Senna, I created a new material. We drag it onto the floor. And that new material I can make, let's just be plain boring with this one for now. And make it white. And I'm going to add a light to the scene. Then I'm going to choose an ambient light. So what an ambient light does is it flattens all the shading out. So we're back to kind of square one. And then let's just call this amber light. And then we can choose another light. And this light we're going to use, let's just try an infinite light. Okay, can't see it at the moment. Let me turn the interactive render region off and take this light and bring it much higher so that you can just see where it is. And I'm going to rotate it. Okay, so it's kind of rotating down for now. And we can give it a shadow, a hard shadow. And you still can't see it, but what I want to do is I want to turn this light into a shadow caster. Now you learned this from Handel Eugene. Let's see, shadows not showing in the preview. There we go. Cool. So what I've done is I've used an ambient light to flatten out all the colors, and then I've brought the shadow back using a light source with shadow caster set on it. And then what I can do is, let me set my interactive render region on. And the way I've painted this, there's a shadow underneath here and a shadow underneath there. So that light source, strictly speaking, should probably be tilting like that, perhaps. And then if we go into our intensity, we can put it up to about 200, so we get a nice dark black shadow. Right, so there we have our nice little painted mug. It just looks a little bit more stylized or hand drawn, and we could take it a little bit further. Yeah, you know you want it, so let's just do it. Let's just do it. Right, so let's just call this milk. I'm probably gonna totally ruin it. As a child, whenever I drew, I was never satisfied with my picture, and I ended up ruining it by drawing more. I don't know about you, but have you ever heard of an overdrawn picture? That was me. So we're gonna go on to the outside of the mug, and let's just draw some milk splashes, right? Okay, sue me, this is terrible drawing, but hey. Trying to make it look as cartoony as possible. Now, this won't be recognized the way I've masked it with the milk shape layer, so I'm just going to have to merge these two in. Go to similar 40 again, UV mapping. Great, look, that preload textures disappeared. So let's just work it back up there again. Press refresh. Probably should have just saved it in my palette, but hey, for this purpose, just wanted to show you how nice it's worked. And then what we probably could do is draw in the little part of the milk spout there manually too. So if I went back in, there maybe, we can almost kind of fakey our own stylized edges. Guess it'd be better if we made that a lot thicker. We could probably also even put a bit of a logo on there. So I'm just going to go into my favorite coffee shop, Ozone, copy image, and go inside of Photoshop and wrap this on just as the guide. Boom. And I kind of want this to be also just feel a little bit hand painted also. This is not plagiarizing, this is a homage. I love Ozone coffee so much, I subscribe to them all the time. So Ozone, this is me advertising you guys, okay? This one's to you, Midori. So I could paint this in. I'm gonna try and kind of to make it feel a little bit hand-drawn feeling, rather than actually trying to take their actual logo, because we want to go with that really hand-drawn feel. I mean, we could put the logo on there, but let's go with this one. If you guys have if you guys, any of you are London based, these are the guys to have coffee at. They are phenomenal, and their food is amazing too. But since you're all stuck at home, I reckon you can order some online. There we go. So let's save that. Right, let's just reload that. I'll probably thicken that up a little bit more. Yeah, I can be lazy and just thicken up that way around by duplicating it. And then just chopping this out, boom. That should be nicer. Turn that guide layer off and reload, and there we go. And another thing we could do is I've got the light source which is casting a shadow on my mug, and I want that light source to be not going over my beautifully drawn UVs there. So what I can do is I can go to mug, I can go to tags, and I can get a compositing tag, and I can uncheck self-shadowing, and that should turn the shadow that gets casted on the mug so that it only gets casted on the floor.
Right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial. If you did, please like, share and subscribe, as I would very much appreciate it. And I just wanted to thank you for my previous tutorial. I already got a couple of subscribers. I found that very encouraging, and I would love to see more, and I will continue to keep up the magic. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See ya.